I was concerned from England. If they go to New Zealand playing this style of rugby, they're going to get absolutely mauled by the All Blacks. The All Blacks are going to come with them with intensity and a high skill set, and it's basically going to be able to blow this England team off the field. That's what I think anyway. G'day and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name is Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. In this video I'm going to be talking about that England versus Wales game that was played at Twickenham on Saturday, the second in a triple header this weekend in the 2024 Six Nations competition. Now, there was a lot to look at in this game because England were coming off an unimpressive win, I would say, against Italy the week before. And Wales were trying to bounce back from that defeat by Scotland in Cardiff, which was their first win there in 22 years. So a lot on the line for this game. We had James Dolman as the referee from New Zealand, and both teams were, as they were stated, to run onto the field to kick off this game. Now, when the game did kick off, we saw a bit of baseball being played by England. They were all over the shop, going hell for leather, trying to make some damage early on to this Welsh team. And one of their set phases in the first couple of minutes saw a kick by George Ford down towards the Welsh line, and Rio Dyer did a fantastic, spectacular catch of the ball and put it into touch to make sure that England didn't get an early try against them. It was a real rushed passage of play for England to start this game, that's for sure. Now, in that first 5 minutes or so of the game, England were very impressive. They were raiding the Welsh line, attack after attack, but they just couldn't quite get through. But the intent was there from England, and as Jamie George and Steve Borthwick have been talking up for a number of weeks now, this team wants to play an expansive game. So it looked like at the beginning of this game that England were going to be able to deliver on that promise. We got to the 10th minute of the game and it was still 0-0, and it was basically all England. They had 90% of the territory and had camped themselves down in the Welsh half. The Welsh were just not able to be able to find a way out of their own territory. Now, we only had to wait till the 11th minute in this game before we had our first major indiscretion. Ollie Chisholm did a poor tackle on Azarati, and it saw him getting a yellow card and leaving the field. And up until that stage, it had been really England that had the momentum in this game, but there was a little bit of a shift, I thought, at that particular moment towards Wales. Wales weren't doing much with the ball early on in this game, and I'd praised Ian Lloyd for his performance last weekend against Scotland. He didn't start off this game very well. In fact, he chose a couple of poor kicking options that didn't help Wales out too much in this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how he would go. But in the 16th minute, Lloyd redeemed himself a little bit for what he'd done previously so far in the game, and took a penalty kick for touch, was fantastic, and put Wales deep down into English territory and onto attack. Wales were hoping to get the line out from this ball and then see if they could get close to the try line. Well, what in fact happened was something that hadn't happened in a game between England and Wales since 2006, and that was a penalty try was awarded to Wales as they were raging towards the English line. So 7 points to 0 after 16 minutes of this game. Wales unexpectedly somewhat in the lead. England had gone down to 13 men because Ethan Roots was shown a yellow card, and this was going to be an opportunity really for Wales to push some ball down in towards English territory and try and get some points on the board. But in fact, the opposite happened, and England went back on to attack. They got a attacking scrum, and off the back of that scrum, Ben Earl went for a great run towards the try line. He got over in a Welsh tackle, and England had scored a fantastic try. George Ford stood up to take the conversion attempt. It was a bit of a debacle. I don't know what was going on there with George Ford, but after 18 minutes of play, we saw the score 7 points to Wales, 5 points to England. Then Wales went back on the attack again around the 22-minute mark of the first half, and we thought that this was probably an opportunity for Wales to get some points back on the scoreboard, but they didn't do it, and England were able to push them back from that opportunity. A minute later, Ollie Chisholm came back on the field again. It's going to be Ollie Chisholm's day though, because a minute later he was taken off the field for an HIA. Got a bit of a knock in a tackle, and it seems as though he was in La La Land for a couple of minutes there. This was a very strange game up until this point. I thought both teams struggling to get any momentum. That rapid fire start that England had definitely had gone away, and we got into some very scrappy play with a lot of errors between these two teams. Now, a lot of you have been making comments about these two teams, saying they're in the rebuilding stage of their development, and that is true. But to me, there appears to be a long way to go in terms of getting any connectivity and combinations going. Both teams seem to be struggling at this point of their transition phases. And then we got to the 30th minute of the first half, and Wales put a great passage of play together. They put 25 different phases together, running England from one side to the other, but they just couldn't penetrate. They couldn't get through to score any points, and at the end of those wonderful phases of play, Wales simply lost the ball and turned it over to England. Looking for a positive from that passage of play, the English defence stood up and didn't allow Wales to get through, but I think it was more a lack of creativity on behalf of the Welsh team. And again, that man Ian Lloyd wasn't directing traffic very well around the base of the breakdown, and every time the ball came out, there didn't seem to be a strong direction of how the ball was going to be moved forward towards the English goal line. For me, the game was pretty disappointing up until this stage, and if I'd paid huge money to go and watch this game at Twickenham, I would have been a little bit disappointed. I was listening to the Welsh commentary of this game, and they had mentioned 4 or 5 times in the first half that Wales had never gone to half-time with a lead against England in a Six Nations match, and this was going to be the first time possibly that it was going to happen. Well, there wasn't much else to talk about in the game at this stage. George North had been playing well for Wales in the first half, did a couple of strong runs, and just showed what potential he does bring to this Welsh team. But again, the backup phases of play after North had done those runs wasn't consistent for Wales, and therefore they never really made those opportunities count. We had to wait for the 37th minute of the game before something else significant happened, and it was a try to Wales, a good work piece. Mann, who had been playing well last weekend against Scotland, got the try. So a good try by Wales to Mann. Lloyd stood up, got the conversion over, and at half time Wales were ahead 14 points to 5. Now, were they going to be able to defend this lead in the second half, or were England going to make a comeback? I'm not too sure what Steve Borthwick would have said to his team at half time, because I don't think there was a lot really of positiveness to talk about other than that raid of Wales and being able to stop 25 phases of play. That was a good defensive set from England, no doubt about that. We didn't see too many of their players making any really significance. Freeman had disappeared in this game after a good game last weekend, I thought, against Italy. He wasn't really much seen. Freddie Stewart did a couple of high catches in the first half, which were good and solid, but as far as making any significant difference in the rest of the game, there weren't really many standouts for England. Their forwards were doing okay, but it was a bit of a scrappy game in the forwards from both teams, both around set play, and we also saw a lot of drop ball around the line out time. So it was pretty unimpressive stuff by the time we got to half time. Warren Gatland, despite having the lead at half time, would have been putting it into his players to be more careful with the ball and to try and make opportunities count. Even though they were ahead by 14 points to 5, there was a good chance that England were going to get back into this game in the second half. So I think Gatland was going to be looking for more precision from their general play kicking, and he would have. England started off more positively in the second half, and they got a penalty kick just on halfway, and Henry Slade did a good left foot kick down the line that gave a lot of territory for England and put them on attack. From that play, an ensuing darting run by Elliot Daly saw him go close, but Cameron Winnett brought him down. It was a good defensive play by Winnett, and Daly looked very, very dangerous. So it looked like England had come out with some intent and purpose in the second half. The question was going to be around whether or not Wales were going to be able to keep them out. England stayed on attack during that period of play, and on the 47th minute of the game, they were 15 metres out and they were awarded a penalty for an infringement by Wales. George Ford made this one an easy kick, and all of a sudden we had the score back to 14 points to 8 in favour of Wales. In the 50th minute we had Wales on attack again. They put in a good attacking raid. The ball came out to Lloyd. He did a kick for Dyer, nearly got it, and then Winnett picked up the ball and had a good run from that as well. But we had a good defensive pattern from England that stopped Wales getting any closer to the line. Itoje was the man in there getting the ball in the breakdown and earned a good turnover for England. So Wales going close, but not able to score on that occasion. On the 55th minute, a good attack by Wales. Dyer puts Winnett through a gap. He takes off down the field and gets caught again by the English defence. So anything that Wales were able to create in this game up until this stage was repelled by England through good defensive work. I thought that a lot of this work that England were putting in defence anytime Wales went on attack was taking the energy out of England. And from the 55th minute through to the 60th minute, we had a bit of a scramble going on. There was some fumbling ball, there was some kicks that went nowhere, and there wasn't a lot of strategic play. But then we got to the 60th minute mark, and there was an opportunity for England to go down on attack. They had a penalty kick, they took a kick for touch to get them close to the Welsh line. So from the ensuing line out, England went on a couple of rolling mauls with their forwards, pick and go, getting closer and closer to the line, and then they finally let it out through the backs, and Dingwall got through a great gap, and in the 62nd minute he went over and scored a very, very good try for England. Unfortunately, George Ford wasn't able to get the conversion over, and the score was 14 points to 13 in favour of Wales. England were getting back into this game, and I just thought it was a matter of time perhaps before they would take the lead. And I thought that try might give them a bit of motivation, inspiration to go forward. Wales weren't playing very well at all in the second half again, and I thought that Lote again at number 10 was making some poor kicking decisions in general play, and he wasn't able to manage his troops around the field in an effective way. He also got caught a couple of times with the ball when he was trying to make a run. I know he's a young kid, he's got lots to learn, and the only way he's going to do it is get out there and put these things into practice. It wasn't going very well for him on this particular day. 68th minute, we saw a couple of reserves coming on. Danny Kerr came on, Basham came on as well, and we were hoping this was going to change the momentum of the game. In the 69th minute, George Ford, a very good 50-22 kick, and really came out of nowhere. He got the ball, came back, looked up quickly, saw that there was an opportunity, put in a very, very good kick over the back of Wales and got that 50-22 opportunity. In the 70-minute mark, England had the ball again. They were moving into an attacking position. Grady did a deliberate knock-on from Wales. It earned him a yellow card and an ensuing penalty to George Ford and England. And George Ford put that kick over to put England in the front. England were ahead 16 points to 14 with just 9 minutes left to go in the game. In the 72nd minute, we saw a couple of substitutions from both sides. Kieran Hardy came on for Wales to replace Thomas Williams, and we saw Ethan Roots going on and Dane Coles coming on for England. It was going to be interesting to see if those two players had any impact in the remainder of the game. As is usually the case in this Six Nations competition this year, we had a very thrilling last couple of minutes to this game. In the 78th minute, Wales got possession of the ball and they put 18 phases together trying to get that try or those points that would have earned them the win in this particular game. But the English defence was extremely solid, and I think Steve Borthwick, looking back on this game, would have been very, very happy with the way that the English defence went in this particular game. Freddie Stewart ended up getting the ball for England, saving the day, so to speak, and England getting away with a very narrow win over Wales by 16 points to 14. So what was it like as far as this game goes? Well, that was the end of a very unentertaining game as far as I was concerned. I get and appreciate the fact that these two teams are in their rebuilding phase after the World Cup. They got a lot of young players coming in, the combinations are not there yet, but I also think what's lacking is some of the skill sets are not very good at all. And I think this is going to pose some problems for both of these teams when they go on their summer tours down under. Wales are going to play 2 test matches in Australia against Australia, and I'm sure Joe Schmidt is going to be able to do some magical work with that Australian team, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with against this Welsh team. So Warren Gatland's going to be wanting to use the Six Nations competition as a really development opportunity to get these young players more confidence playing test match rugby, but also working out their strategic combinations and what to do during a game. That just seems to be lacking. We saw it last week against Scotland for 25 minutes when Wales got their momentum and they played without fear. They were a completely different team It seems as though when they were going in against this weekend against England, they seemed to have this mindset of knowing what England were going to bring at them, and they were very, very cautious around their structures. They didn't have an opportunity to play free-flowing rugby, and when they did get the ball in those opportunities, Lloyd was not very impressive from number 10. Whilst George North did get involved in the game, we didn't see too much of him making decisive line breaks that were backed up by Welsh play going out wide again. I think Dyer and Winnett are very good in the outside backs, but we need to see more of them. I think Cameron Winnett is a very good solid number 15, and he's going to be very, very good in the future for this Welsh team. The Welsh forwards didn't get a very good roll on against England. England forwards, I think, were better in the set play, and that's going to be an area that Warren Gatland's going to have to work on for next game. From the English point of view, I was more impressed with their defence in this game than I was their attacking play. Other than the first couple of minutes of the first half and the second half, they didn't really show us much at all around the park. It's that individual brilliance from Ben Earl picking the ball up at the base of the scrum and running to score that try, but we didn't really see too much of the outside backs as far as I was concerned from England. If they go to New Zealand playing this style of rugby, they're going to get absolutely mauled by the All Blacks. The All Blacks are going to come with them with intensity and a high skill set, and it's basically going to be able to blow this England team off the field. That's what I think anyway. But we're a few months out from that. Steve Borthwick and his team have time to build this English team, but they've got to start making some progress. I haven't really seen a lot of development since the Italy game to this Welsh game, and I'd like to hear your comments, what you thought. Do you think England were a better team this weekend against Wales than they were against Italy, or do you think we saw the same level of play from this English team? I think this particular English team is going to have a very hard time against Ireland. There's not going to be too much that's going to be worrying Andy Farrell at this stage from this English team, although they might rise to the occasion. They tend to do that when they're playing the better teams, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. As far as Wales goes now, that's 2 losses out of 2 matches for Warren Gatland and his team. This year was going to always be an opportunity to bring these young players through. I think the talent's there, they just need to be given more time and opportunity as far as their test matches go. So expect them to build on this. I think we need to see that experience from people like George North and those players that can help this young Welsh team go forward. I think it's got to be quite frustrating for some of these coaches where they see the potential of these teams. There's no doubt about it in my mind that I think this Welsh team can potentially be very good. Those young players just need to be given an opportunity, and let's face it, the only way they're going to get that is by going out and playing these kinds of test matches. Some of those players haven't played at Twickenham before, and that's quite a cauldron of rugby to go and play a game in front of that English home crowd. So expect them to grow, expect them to develop. All this stuff is good experience for this Welsh team, and I think Warren Gatland will be taking the positives out of this game and looking to see how they can build on that for future games. I'm not too worried that Wales have lost both games. I think we saw the intent there in that 25 minutes in the second half against Scotland. They were very, very good, and if they can do that once, well, they can do it again. That's my philosophy anyway. So let me know what you think about this Welsh team at the moment. Do you think they're on track? Do you think it's a case of just getting more and more experience into these players, and by the time they get to Australia in July, they're going to be able to take it to Joe Schmidt Australian team? What do you think is going to play out there? So there we go, a pretty dour affair at Twickenham in the weekend between England and Wales. 16 points to 14 win for England in what was a game that could be said, well, 2 rebuilding teams in transition at the moment. We probably expect this kind of game, but they're both going to have to lift their performance standards if they're going to be any better in the remainder of the Six Nations competition. Now, don't forget to leave me your comments, what you thought about this game. Where are these teams heading as they go through the rest of the Six Nations? I'd like to hear from you. If you want to stick around, I'd love to have you here on Inside Rugby and join our global community. The best way of doing that is hit the subscribe button, give this video a bit of a thumbs up, and that helps the YouTube algorithm, of course. Now, I'm going to be back with more video content really soon. Until then, it's time to say adios from beautiful Mexico. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and bye for now.